Good evening and welcome to a new edition of Sports Bar. I'm your host, Travis Stanley, and today I have with me panelists Greg, Braxton, and Sam. Guys, rolling right into App State and Texas State from this past Saturday. App came out with a 35-10 win in a game that necessarily wasn't even as close as the score might indicate at times. But quickly, Greg, your impressions of App State versus Texas State. What did we learn, if we learned anything?
I mean, I think overall it was another strong game for App. I think one thing that was noteworthy is we had the 9th Mountaineer to score a touchdown in that game, Jalen Barber. And I think it shows really the depth of the App State roster when you've got so many people on the field and you're never quite sure who the ball is going to go to because there's so many people that could score. That makes it pretty hard to be on defense for an offense like that. So I think that speaks to how well the program's been going, and particularly how well the game went. Sunday.
I thought it was interesting to look at the stats. Lamb only threw for 120 yards, but had 4 TD passes. I think he was 12 for 19. So when 4 of your throws of the 12 that you completed resulted in touchdowns, you got something going for you. And then Moore and Cox both went over 100 yards, and they combined for over 300 yards as a team rushing. And then the defense, Texas State really has no running game to speak of, but they really shut down the pass for the most part as well. They only had 197 total yards of offense, so definitely it was a dominant performance by the Mountaineers. But certainly ahead of them for this coming Saturday is going to be a much stiffer test, or at least it looks like it will be, with the Troy Trojans. App travels to Troy for that game, and Troy right now is 4-0 in conference. They've played one less conference game than App has. But Braxton, I'll start with you. What do you feel like the Apps might have to key on in order to come out with this really what should be kind of the de facto conference championship game victory?
Yeah. They got to keep doing what they're doing. Kind of like what Greg mentioned, that they're spreading the ball around really well on offense. They're not just, and it's really easy for Taylor Lamb to kind of point out Metters, because with the way Metters has been playing the past couple of games until this week, have been playing really well, and they've been getting him the ball a lot. But it'd be really easy for him to do that, but as what Greg pointed out, that he hasn't. He's spreading the ball around. When the receivers get opens, he's finding them. He's making good decisions when he throws the ball. He's not throwing the ball a ton, but when he does, he's making good decisions. So when you have a quarterback that does that and doesn't turn the ball over, that's always a great thing for your offense. And then, like I said last week, when you got the 2 running back teams that we have back there, as in Moore and Cox, it's really, really hard to defend when both of them run for over 100 yards. So having that tandem is tough, and then the defense is also playing well. Secondary, front 7, everything's really working in App's favor right now. So just keep doing what they're doing, and they should be all right. But it would be a tough test.
Certainly. Sam, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game like it was last year. That game went into overtime, I believe. So these are the two top teams in the Sun Belt going at it. You expect it to be a good game. I look for Appalachian, like Braxton said, to really control the tempo of the game with their dominant running game. And I've bragged on App the past couple weeks now for playing complete games, and I think I have to caution myself with that, because although our offense has been dominant and our defense has been smothering, our special teams has kind of been lacking there. This is the second game. This past game was the second game that the opponent's only touchdown of the game came off of a special teams mishap with the blocked punt.
And we would have beaten an SEC opponent if not for some sloppy special teams.
So our place kicking has been less than spectacular. So I think if they can lock that down, I don't think they should have really any trouble. I think we have all of the weapons on both sides of the ball to really control every aspect of the game. So
I agree that they have the talent, but definitely something that App is going to have to key on it and watch for. In that game last year when they played Troy, what really kind of caught them off guard was Troy definitely played a very up-tempo offense. I mean, they were running to the line of scrimmage to snap the ball again. And now App does not have a very, beefy defensive line, and their defensive line quickness has really helped them in a lot of games this year, particularly the Tennessee game. But still, they've been gassed in prior games, so they definitely will need to adjust for that quick pace offense that the Trojans want.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed over the past 2 weeks, I guess, even in the Miami game, is opponents are really throwing us with wide receiver screens and screens of any kind, really. So Troy could exploit that, getting up to the line real quick and throwing a wide receiver screen, because I think that's really where Texas State, they worried us on that first drive. They really just kind of marched down the field, and luckily we were able to hold them just a field goal. But I think we'll need to watch for that, their tempo, and then maybe some screens if they decide to throw that in there, and that could give us some trouble.
And perhaps, even though App lost pretty big to Miami, maybe with the way Miami plays up tempo, kind of like Troy, maybe it's a good way for them to kind of get a feel for how Troy may play. Even though they lost, maybe it's a good thing that they played Miami.
They'll be able to look at the Miami tape as well as the Troy tape from last year, because you can draw a lot of comparisons between this Troy team and Appalachian, really, of prior seasons, last year, maybe possibly even the season before that, where definitely a very young unit, where they had a complete change of the guard. So they're going through the same kind of growing pains, or at least they did last year, and now they're actually seeing that pay off this year with only one loss on the season to a very tough Clemson team.
And their defense has already, I think, gathered 15 interceptions on the year, so they've got some pretty nice things working for them on their defensive side as a ball as well.
Yeah.
Troy does.
They definitely do. So that will definitely be really the game of the year in the Sun Belt, and I'm really looking forward to that on Saturday. Tonight, however, App State women's basketball has a game. They play Lenore Ryan in an exhibition game, and they previously played Coker College in an exhibition game in their first game of the year. They won that game 77-51. But before we discuss that game, I want to tell you about the show that the head coach, Angel, has here on App TV. It's called Angel Show, and you can catch that here on App TV if you go to www.watchapptv.com. And this game tonight against Lenore Ryan, I'm not sure will be any more of a test than the game against Coker was. Both aren't Division I universities for women's basketball. But I think, Greg, if you looking kind of at the box score for some of these Mountaineers, you can possibly see who might be some of the leaders for this team for the rest of the season.
Well, I mean, I think in the game against Coker, the Lady Mountaineers had 3 players who scored in the double digits, which is pretty impressive. They had Mia Marshall, Bria Carter, which gave them a really good head start in the game. I think the team overall, App scored on half of their possessions, which is always a good sign. Defense was excellent, which managed to hold Coker to low scoring. I mean, in a similar way to, I think, how well App football has performed. I think this is a very good indication for how well the women's basketball team could be performing this year if they manage to put those same sorts of strategies on the court tonight.
Maddie Story, the junior guard, she had 22 to go along with a very impressive freshman performance by Bailey Plummer. She had 13 in her first ever game as a Mountaineer. So they have a lot of young talent, and they have a few key pieces for senior leadership that I hope can definitely benefit them, because honestly they've fallen on some hard years these past 2 seasons, and that program is trying to rebuild themselves. Having won the conference, having won the SoCon in 2012, really it's been kind of rocky for women's basketball here at Appalachian since then. And the women's side of the ball, or the women's side of things for ASU basketball, has been the more dominant program, at least in recent history. So it's nice to see that it looks like they're building momentum, and reclaiming that status here for Appalachian. But quickly, we are going to take a short break. But before we do, let's take a look at this week's Rise episode.
Second and 10, Bobcats with the ball, up 3-0. To the left it goes. Mondo Williams coming in to make a nice stop on Thurman Morbly. Cox still in at running back. Gets the handoff, running left. Stretches it outside to the 35. Stays on his feet, 30. Marcus Cox breaking away to the 10, to the 5. Cox to the end zone. That's an App State touchdown for Marcus Cox. Shotgun Jones, Sadzinski, the running back, in motion to the near side. Jones looking right, back to the left, pressure from behind, and they get him. Des Reed brings him down. First sack of the game for the Mountaineer defense. 2nd and 5, Lamb shotgun. Screen pass right, TJ Watkins with tight ends blocking in front. Watkins breaks a tackle and spurts forward inside the 40. Mountaineers have found some rhythm on offense. Lamb, long pass across the field to Jalen Barber. Barber at the 5, cuts inside, gets to the end zone, and that's an App State touchdown. The first of the year for Jalen Barber. Godwin, Devin Pappenheim, and Tyson Fernandez, the 3 down linemen. Here's the blitz from the outside, and down goes Jones again. Jones, shotgun, gonna step up and try to run. Fuller slings him down at the 39-yard line. Jones over the middle, intercepted Eric Boggs. A juggling pick by Boggs back in coverage, went way up high to grab it. Lamb play fakes, steps up, wants to throw, rushed out to the left, fires on the run, it is caught near the goal line. That's an App State touchdown. Second quarter. Shotgun, Mountaineers, here they come, and down he goes. Quan Stout gets credit for this one. Shotgun Lamb, Jalen on 3rd and 1 has a huge hold of the 40. Jalen to the midfield. Jalen Moore breaking away down to the 30. Right sideline, it's a foot race. They catch him down inside the 10. Cox going to go in motion to the right. Lamb in the shotgun, wants to throw. Lamb wheels out to the left. Taylor at the 15-yard line, head up, fires to the back of the end zone. It's caught by Mock Adams, and he's got his first career App State touchdown. Lamb shotgun, screen pass to the right. It's caught by Ike Lewis. Shakes a tackle at the 20. Great juke at the 15. Ike staying on his feet down to the 10 and out of bounds. 2 tight ends in the backfield along with Cox. Play fake. Throw it out to the right to Barrett Burns, and he scampers forward into the end zone. Jones shotgun. Back in the pocket. Fires left. It's caught shy of the end zone. 3rd and goal from the 3. Quarterback draw to the left. Jones, nowhere! Des Reed, Eric Boggs, John Law coming up to make the stop. 4 wide to the left, 1 to the right. Jones hesitates. Gilchrist wraps him up and brings him down with 1 arm. What strength, what power.
Keep up to date with the Black and Gold on and off the field by following the Mountaineers on Twitter at @AppState_FB.
Welcome back to Sports Bar, where we now turn our attention to Major League Baseball and kind of the season that was. The Cubs finally ended their 108-year World Series drought, defeating the Indians. And Braxton, I know you live and breathe baseball, and having watched, the whole 162 games season, or how many games are in the season?
162.
162. Yeah, I always get that confused. Having seen the whole season and watched the Cubs throughout the year, obviously they were the odds-on favorite going into the playoffs. But kind of what's your impressions been of their season, possibly where the franchise stands, going forward, and then touch on how they came back down 3-1 in playoffs.
Well, I think it was really interesting. I think I touched on this at the beginning of the playoffs. Since 1990, there's only been 2 teams that's been favored to win the World Series at the beginning of the season that's actually won. And the Cubs were this year that it happened for them. So that was really nice to see that, people in the media can actually predict a winner at the beginning of the year, because it really happens. But that was fun. And it's good for us fans, not Cubs fans, to be able to have this GOAT business and the curse business gone. We don't have to hear about that anymore. But at the same time, when a team gets good really quickly, like the Cubs did, a lot of times you see fans created, bandwagon fans. But what's interesting, the Cubs are a different kind of organization as far as you see fans that have been Cubs fans for a long time that actually got to see a good team, and it's rare that they get to do that. So it's really, really good for them to be able to have that. And I have some friends of mine that are personally Cubs fans, and it's just great for them to be able to have a good season, and it's just kind of nice. But But from that, I kind of feel like maybe the 76ers in the NBA kind of have a sigh of relief now because they kind of see the Cubs and they take their perspective that they had and they say, oh, tanking might can work. We're actually trying to take this pathway that the Cubs did, so maybe we can be the next team that can be the first tanking team in the NBA to actually win a championship. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Not too far away, but maybe
the tanking theory, as far as how to build a franchise up, is one that is highly debated.
Yeah.
And right now, it doesn't necessarily look like it's working for the 76ers still yet. They're 0-5 right now in the year. Real quick though, about the Cubs and their gathering for the parade. They had roughly over 5 million people at their parade. And it was the 7th largest gathering of people in recorded history.
Wow.
The 7th largest gathering of people, and at one place in recorded history. The other events ahead of it, 2 of them were in the 1940s, and they were all either religious gatherings of some kind that would mark huge gatherings of people worldwide. Well, this was just Cubs fans. Just Cubs fans in the city of Chicago and downtown Chicago. So I thought that was almost hard to believe. But moving to the NFL, the Carolina Panthers got another win, 2 in a row. They played the Rams of Los Angeles. I keep saying St. Louis sometimes in talking to other people. But they won 13-10 in a game that, honestly, in my opinion, wasn't terribly exciting. When the score is 13-10, it usually isn't. But I think the big takeaway from this game was the fact that Newton was sacked 5 times. One hit particularly was, I thought, very, frankly, gruesome. The player led with his forearm and jacked him to the side of the helmet. Yeah. No call. But the Panthers won, and really the biggest reason they won is because they did win the turnover battle. Sam?
Yeah, it wasn't an exciting game. I sat there and I watched every dreadful second of it. It was a defensive struggle, but I also think it was an offensive line struggle. I don't think either team could run the ball whatsoever. Yeah. And then you have Case Keenum, who can't pass the ball very well at all. You have Cam, who can pass the ball when he's not being plagued by these gruesome hits that the league chooses to admonish or not have anything to say about it. So you saw Cam, he was really inaccurate throughout the game, had some people wide open that he just missed, and you have to wonder if these hits are starting to weigh on him, that he thinks he has to get the ball out a lot quicker now because people are coming after him. And with the hit where the player led with his forearms, there could have been a call, but the commentators were saying that they were really impressed with the referee's ability to ignore everything that's been going on with Cam and the commissioner and play the game. But I thought personally it probably should have been a call. It was a high hit, if anything. So, it just looks like they got the win, and in the end, that's all that really matters. You hope that they can start stringing together wins, and they can still, if they run the table, they can very easily get back into the playoffs and make a deep run again.
Yeah, and I think Newton's been pretty vocal about this. He does feel like there's been some discrepancy in the calls against him as opposed to the calls against other quarterbacks. And I'm not sure whether or not I can speak to that, but that call definitely, I think that was one that probably should have been made, and I'm sure he feels like should have been made.
Yeah.
But I think one thing we saw that was good is I think the Panthers' defense looked pretty good. The Rams didn't overwhelm the Panthers the way like the Broncos and the Vikings did. The offense wasn't stellar, but it was enough for them to win.
Yeah, that first drive of the game, I was thinking, I'm sure if it was the first drive of the game, I can't recall now. But
with 7 minutes left.
Yeah, with 7 minutes left. Yeah. So that first scoring drive for the Panthers, I was thinking, we might have something going, and it might be definitely a game where they have the offense going. But as a Panthers fan, I'm happy with a W at the end of the day.
And another thing there, Ryan Khalil was out, and he's really the leader of that offensive line. So you see the defense getting through a porous offensive line. Maybe that has something to do with it. When you get him back, maybe the offense, you give Cam a little more time, or the running game can ignite again. But the defense second game in a row where they played really well. The Panthers of old, showed up on the field.
In my opinion, I think Newton would be okay with taking slightly less money and investing in a few more offensive linemen.
Right.
But we'll see if that happens. When we come back, we will have a look at fantasy football. Welcome back to SportsBar. We're going to get right into fantasy football scores for this week to see who is dominating Week 9. And we'll go ahead and take a look at our individual matchups. This is Greg and Rob's matchup. Guys, what do you see out of this matchup?
I like the format. Much easier
Like
to
the
read.
format? Yes, it is much easier to read. And also
Murray
like the
definitely did
fact,
some
if
work
you
for
are
me.
Greg, that Drew Brees had 24 and Murray rushed to 30 points.
Yeah. I mean, I think Rob's still got a chance here. I mean, Baldwin puts up some pretty serious points. Rob's shaking his head. I don't know. You never know. You never know. Good wide receiver is always of value, but it'll be a challenge, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think this comes down to Rob's inability to score with his running backs. It just 2 and 6 out of your running backs is not at all what you want, and you pair that to Greg's 30 and 7. So it looked like Greg was gonna take this one if you had to ask me.
Yeah, I think this one probably is a foregone conclusion. We'll go ahead and put it in the books. That'll most likely be a Greg W. And moving on, guys, again, what do you think we see? This is Joey and Carlin.
Again, just lack of production out of the running backs, lack of production out of the wide receivers as well here for Carlin. Blake Bortles and Mark Ingram put up good points for Joey. So
This is the time of the year where you start getting injuries that really complicate your roster, and you're either faced with trying to get rid of a player and draft someone new, or and that's always a tough situation to be in.
And you also don't know necessarily if they aren't on, for instance, IR or out for the season, but they're a key player. Do I hang on to them? Do I eat that player for a little while and possibly have them, for later in the season? But Joey came out. He had a surprisingly good day, and most likely this matchup will end in a Joey Beretti victory. Rolling on to the next matchup. Sam, this is you and Jack. What do you see here, man? What has allowed you to put up 111 points?
yeah, well, Aaron Rodgers and Melvin Gordon really waited till the last second to start doing something this week. I was losing to Jack for most of the day yesterday, and then Melvin Gordon explodes for 31, and Aaron Rodgers led that fourth quarter comeback. I'm stuck on baseball.
It's okay.
That didn't work out. Travis Benjamin got me nothing. I was kind of confused. Randall Cobb was playing at one point, and then he wasn't playing, and then he was playing again, and then it was questionable. And Adam Schefter didn't really help me out this week with Randall Cobb. He didn't let me know what was going on there. So I decided to go with Travis Benjamin. I think it's all right. Frank Gore also got me some pretty solid numbers.
You keep picking Rodgers over Brady. What's going on with that?
I see that's the problem with the Patriots lineup. The Patriots were on bye this week, so I had to. I was lucky enough that nobody had taken Kyle Rudolph off of free agency. Went in, snatched him up. Glad I put him in because my other backup, Travis Kelce, got ejected during the middle of the game for throwing a towel at a referee. So, I had to do some mixing and matching. Got Sanu for the Falcons. He put up okay numbers, but
Falcons have been a good team to key on if you're a fantasy owner, particularly on the offensive side of the ball this year. They've definitely put up some huge numbers.
Yeah.
And we'll go ahead and roll on to the final matchup. And this is me. And so I will say that what is currently shown up there is not how my roster sits as of this moment.
This 3 weeks in a row you lost here,
This
Travis?
is 3 weeks in a row. But I am playing the Bills defense tonight, so I can possibly make up a little bit of ground there. Also, I have the backup there in Buffalo playing tonight. But I definitely fell asleep at the wheel. I was telling Rob prior to the show, I was trying to blame it on just a busy life and a busy weekend. And yes, it has been a busy life and a busy weekend, but that is no reason not to set your fantasy football lineup. And I also fell victim to the 1 week that Adam Witten decided to show up and not put out a 40-point performance. I think in the back of my mind, I kind of thought it doesn't matter anyway. And I figured I would kind of get a victory anyhow, but it looks like it's going to take all that I have to come out with probably what would be a very improbable victory after Monday night.
Well, you keep your hopes up.
I will try to keep hope alive for the playoffs and the rest of the season. We'll see. But that is all the time we have this week. Thank you for joining us, and next week we'll have an all-new episode of Sports Bar. Thanks for watching.